Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's stream. As I muck with my camera and lights, I'm just using like a document camera. Anyways, what are we doing today? Well, we are doing a little bit of brainstorming for a project. So I decided that I've actually been thinking for the last couple of years it would be fun to do like a calendar project. And then I've just never gotten organized about it. First of all, half the time the idea comes to me in like October. It's like, no, it need to already be done like months before. Anyways, this year I'm trying to plan ahead enough. Now, are these squiggles? Well, it's materials testing because the calendar would be full color. So I was thinking, well, there's a few ways I could do it. I could draw it, then I could digitally color it. I could use markers. These are all alcohol markers. I could use pencil crayons. You could use paint. That tends to take longer and be less YouTube friendly type of stuff. Just in terms of drying time and whatnot. Um, but I had the idea today. Well, let's do some scribbling with some pencil crayons. I'm just using Faber Castells. And then I got all sorts of different brands for alcohol markers. And then we tested with the dip pens I use in my inking streams, as well as, pigment liners and whatnot. They all seem to work fine. So I guess the story is that I'll be doing mixed media for this project. Now, anyways, that's going to be down the road a little bit. This is the schedule I'm going to do. I'm going to try, anyways, to do 2 calendars. I can probably bang out 2 per stream, right? And I've got my Noah's Archipelago project, and then I've got my Ricky B. Rat world with Myles. So in theory, there's 2 separate calendars. Now, what I have done with the dates, like I brainstormed what would be in each month and whatnot. This morning, I was writing out, with the assumption I would do January and January, 1 for each. But part of me is kind of thinking maybe the smart thing to do would be to do 2 Noahs, or I'll flip a coin, whether it's Noah or Ricky that comes first, but to kind of spend 6 weeks drawing well, I guess 7 because the cover would be separate. 7 weeks on one, then I know I have one done, and then 7 weeks on the other, as opposed to say something in theory, this should all work on the timeline, but I also know I get easily distracted, things come up, you know, get sick, get burned out, get sidetracked, whatever, and then I end up with multiple half-finished projects, which I'm trying to avoid doing this year. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, actually finish things. Anyways, so this is kind of the plan. I'll decide next week whether I'm going to do 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 1, or whether I'm going to do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then come back after. But what we are doing today, regardless of how I structure the project, is I have vague ideas, but I have not done any thumbnails. And if I'm supposed to next week, well, I did say a couple weeks for thumbnailing on stream. But if in 2 weeks I'm going to be starting the artwork, then I need to have some thumbnails done. So, and it's been a few weeks now since I've done one of these sort of brainstorming type of streams of just drawing random stuff. So that's what we're going to work on today. And I realized I probably should have put it on the underside so when it's flipped up, I can look at it, but whatever. So, you know what? It's almost Easter. So let's start. Let's go for the couple of Easter thumbnails first. I'm not going to do full drawings like I've done in previous brainstorming streams where I like draw it and then I color it or whatnot. We are going quick. If we have time at the end, like hypothetically, if we get through all 26, I don't think we will. But if we do, we can play with markers after that. But let's get some poses done. And I'm actually gonna pull it out of the book so I can have it out of sort of out of the way of the camera and whatnot, but where I can see it. It'll save me a lot. Well, that's gonna cast a shadow. We'll put it off to the side here so I can see it, and it kind of minimizes the amount of flopping back and forth we do. And yeah, that's a little thick for what I want to do. So we're going to be super loose and we can refine poses later. So I've got the first one. Noah is the Easter Bunny and Leprechaun. Noah loves to dress up in weird costumes and stuff like that. But for March, you know, I believe Easter is in March next year. So with just the one art image per month, now we've got to have, now Noah's going to be trying to decide whether he's going to be the Easter Bunny or is he going to be a leprechaun, you know? And so there's a couple ways we could do this. And you can see how loose we're going to be doing this. Is he going to be, he could be looking from one costume to another, trying to decide. Actually, the way to probably do that would be to have two heads, to have Noah with two heads kind of thing, where he's kind of looking that way and looking that way. Now his eyebrows are up. He's kind of a bit of an anxious dude, you know. He's always trying to think of the best thing, the best option, um, including on things that he's not sure, you know, that really don't matter. Doesn't matter if you're dressed as a leprechaun or as the Easter bunny in your calendar thing. Well, I guess to know what's important, you know. It's his first calendar. He's got to make the right impression, although this is the third month. And anyone who buys the calendar presumably already likes Noah, you know? So how do we kind of do that where he kind of looks like conjoined twins, actually? Which that could be another way to do it is like the Noah conjoined twins, and one half of him is the Easter bunny and one half is the leprechaun. So this is obviously going to be super, super messy. So he's holding up here. We'll give him his top hat, which would be green, of course, and then he's got to be holding his green coat. I'm already sort of realizing one possible problem with doing it this way is logically the fabric would fall down, right? Which then makes it a little awkward. You have his bright green bow tie, also his booty shorts, but it's kind of, he can only hold so many things. But on the other hand, he's going to be holding up his, this would be like the head hole, and then it would have ears like that. This also might not read properly because is it going to, I mean, the ears, I guess, read as bunny, but you don't see the tail. So, yeah, I'm not too thrilled with that pose, but I had the idea about the Noah as Siamese twins type of thing. So let's try drawing that, where he's like emerging out of himself. And now he looks angry. It's the thing with eyebrows. You get them in the backwards direction, you know, and they say something completely different. My phone is telling me I've been mentioned by myself on Twitter because I scheduled a post about that. And then I forgot to put my phone onto. He looks a little demented with the angry eyebrows, wide open eyes, and grin. Maybe he's like trying to put the bunny Noah is trying to push away the leprechaun Noah. I don't know. I think that one's gonna, even without drawing the whole thing, part of me is like, I think that's too strange. And, like, in a, I don't know, kinda way. Okay, so we're not doing that. Um, so maybe what we'll do then, I'll just label this NA Cal March. Oh, yeah. Let's see if I can get this a little more upright. So, yeah. Yeah, that way it got a bit of a strange thing. There. Now we can see the whole thing and some of the piles of markers that we're probably not even going to use today. March. The other thing would be maybe he incorporates aspects of both into one costume. So he's got his bunny ears from his bunny costume. And they're kind of drooping. But then he's also insisted on trying to shove that um, leprechaun hat on top of his head. He's got his bangs coming out from the bunny costume. He's grinning. Looks a little demented, but often Noah kind of sometimes does tend to look demented. We want to convey that this is like a one of those costumes where the back of the head is covered and then your face pokes through. And so he's doing that. And maybe he's wrapped his bow tie around the rabbit costume. So it's kind of almost like a hoodie. And now the bunny costume has a big fat padded belly on it. Yeah, because the Easter bunny has access to a lot of chocolate. So he really should. Okay, now this is working, I think. So he can have his Easter basket. He's holding like that, except actually it's going to be one of those costumes where it's almost like a mitten hand, like that. Easter basket, and it's got some painted eggs and some gold coins. Okay. I think we have a winner. I was going to say I'm going to write notes about it, except I could watch my own video and make the notes. So, winner. And then in the background, I have some like eggs and some shamrocks. Some of those like marshmallow peep bunnies. All right. We don't get to see really well, actually, I guess it depends. If I do the pose where he's got his hat like there and the ears and his head, and then he's holding his basket, which is also a pot of gold and blah blah blah. But if I do more of a full body, then we would see bunny costume. Because normally when I draw him in the web comic, because for anyone who might be new, this is a web comic I do that features Noah, and I regularly draw him as on March 17th, dressed up as a leprechaun, but he wears like booty shorts, like so he's got the leprechaun jacket, he's got the bow tie, and he's got his hairy chest hanging out, and he's wearing bright green, emerald green booty shorts and whatnot. Um, so if you try to pull those over a bunny costume that's padded, it's not going to work so much. So I think, yeah, we won't do the full pose. We'll crop them off at kind of hip level. All right. Well, we have one design so far. I can take this out and just make a little check mark for thumbnails. I should probably, because I will forget in like 3 weeks and I'll be like, how come it's checked off? I don't have an inked whatever. That's how my life goes. I'm easily distracted. So, flip over. Yeah, I'm getting closer to the end of this notebook, but I think I've got enough pages. If not, I'll just start drawing on the back. God forbid you draw on the back. Stewie, let's do, well, for Ricky's calendar, some of these already are planned because they are that one of the very first Ricky cartoons I did. Well, not as a cartoon because I was doing black line, but when I started doing marker, like full color, I did them for a while on Sundays. I would post in between, before I started working on the graphic novels. So one of the first ones I had was it's Ricky kneeling down and he's got an Easter basket and they've got all the, it looks like eggs, but they're red with white dots. He's picking magic mushrooms, right? And then Miles, as the party pooper, walks up behind him and says, those aren't eggs, Ricky. And Ricky tells Miles to shut up. Anyway, so I can actually look through, and a bunch of these I have thumbnailed out if they weren't actually already done as marker sketch comics. They're ones that I have in my sketchbook. So like the punk show date night, that's one is like in a small sketchbook of mine. That's very detailed drawing. So that one we can skip. That one we did. Beach date we did. Like I'll probably tweak how I do them. But we do have a bunch of those already kind of sketched. Actually, most of the Ricky stuff, if I don't have the final, I have like a version that's like, oh, okay, it's 75% of the way there and I want to change X, Y, and Z. So that kind of saves some time. I should have realized that, but I didn't actually. So let's go on. The other thing coming up next month being April. Well, when I say next month, I mean like I'm on the west coast of Canada, so in 5 hours and 12 minutes, it'll be April. This is almost 6 p.m. or it's almost 7 p.m. here. So therefore, let's move on to the April ones. So Noah isn't going to be in every single one of these. There'll be other characters as well. Just like I don't think Ricky's in he's in most of them, but for his. But Noah's mother-in-law Agnes and his father-in-law Frank. Now, the story with Frank and Agnes, I don't know that it's been referenced too much in the webcomic, but the idea is that Frank is a retired politician and Agnes, well, she's a society lady. She still is. And she likes very plain, boring. Everything's beige in her house, tasteful, unlike my place. Agnes would not own a pencil case that's got that color on it. She probably wouldn't even, maybe she'd own one that was that pale, but didn't she complain about it being loud? Anyways, so they have a fairly large house, and the idea is, and I'll just doodle this. So they've got a property that's like in the overpriced part of town. So they got a like circular driveway thing here, main house here. Ruth moved into when she was 18, moving out across the driveway. And then they got a pool, and then this is supposed to be a huge lawn, actually, lawn in front too, right? And then when Ruth married Noah, well, Noah likes to garden and stuff like that. And Frank grew up on a farm, wanted to retire to a farm, but Agnes won't let him. So, therefore, um, therefore, Frank will come up and Noah will come up with schemes, and then Noah takes the blame, even if it was Frank's idea. So, and Agnes complains and blame. Anyways, point is, they've done some modifications to this yard. So there's like, I think my layout may be a little wrong, but they've put in an orchard. They've put in a greenhouse. Um, there's a chicken coop back here, and then there's like a veggie garden. So the lawn is kind of slowly shrinking. Anyways, so there's been comes up occasionally in the webcomic, or it has over the last few years, that Agnes complains about Thorson has ruined her lawn with his stupid chickens and his stupid vegetables and his stupid fruit trees, and anyways. So the idea I had with this is Agnes, she's got, one of she's one of those old ladies who has, like, the bobbed hair, like, she's not gonna cut it short, like, some women are like, "I'm not bothering anymore. Get out the scissors. Brr," buzz cut, right? Or, like, short and curly, which is what both my grandmothers did. But then there's the women who they also don't wanna have their hair long because that's a hassle, so it's, like, the chin length bob that's very sensible looking. Anyways, that's Agnes's hairdo. But we're gonna see her from the back, I think. And, she's wearing her turtleneck sweater, as she always is. She's got her arms crossed. And then there's Frank. Frank is terrified of Agnes. Well, he's got a bad back. He doesn't want to have to sleep on the sofa. Plus, they have one of those sofas that's, the antique kind that has, the wood frame, and then you know, settees, antique type of whatever. Anyways, point is, he's got a bad back. He does not want to have to sleep on this thing. It's got the random upholstered thing in there, and then, like, anyways, so he's very concerned with making sure she thinks, or you'd think by now she would know that it's not always Thorson's idea. But anyways, we'll give him some flop sweat. um, but anyways, so she's going to be looking out at her once beautiful lawn. It's just been ruined by garden beds and all this. But what she's going to see that's going to piss her off will be these little random pops of dandelions. Or not dandelions. That would actually be worse, because she could argue that was a weed. Daffodils. Little pops of daffodils all throughout her yard. You got the hedge there. Somehow you magically never see the neighbors through the hedge, even though there's a gap between these giant, like, cypress trees. Because that's the wonder of cartoons. Anyways. We can tell by the flop sweat, it wasn't all Thorson's idea. Thorson might have come up with the idea, but Frank was the one who approved it and said it was a good idea. So there we go. Another one where you can really see what they are. Now, the angry fight thing, I think, works well with the back of her head. The problem is we don't see Agnes well, I mean, there will be a family portrait on the cover, but you're not gonna really see Agnes so much elsewhere in the calendar. 'Cause she is kind of a bit character, so maybe we need to give her a day in court, and also show the expression that she's not just like daffodils in my once beautiful lawn. Well, I mean, I guess you could say that Sushi says once beautiful lawn, that this is not like a, oh, daffodils. It's a daffodils. Who doesn't like daffodils? Agnes doesn't like daffodils. Is she going to be waving a fist? I feel like waving a fist. It's kind of an appropriate gesture, but also Agnes, I think, probably do morally arm on the thing. So forget about that. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The only thing is I'd probably actually do it more a little bit more this way, because I think what I've been going back and forth. I'll have to make my decision like this week because it will affect layout and aspect ratio and stuff. But I am pretty sure that what I'm going to be doing will be to do. They have if I get them done through Club Card, which is where I plan to do a clubcard.ca, not sponsored or anything, but I've been getting when I need stuff printed, I've been dealing with them since my music industry days 15 years ago. Um, but they have an option for what they call the padded calendar. So that would be one that would be like that little hole, and then you just rip it off each time, as opposed to the kind that, fold in the middle. And the reason why I'm thinking of that is then, like, I'll probably do a small run, like 100 of each. But on the off chance, because it'll be my first calendar offering, and I don't know what the demand is going to be, etc. I'm thinking if I do the padded, you can do it 9 by 12. So I mean, I can't quite get that all in, but this is a 9 by 12. But it'll be the vertical version. If they don't all sell out, then I can still offer them as like a art print thing, because I could do it where this in the center, whether it would be 8 by 10 or whether it would be 5 by 7, and then the calendar down here, if it was 5 by 7, or whether it would be 8 by 10 with a fairly big print, and then just like kind of, I don't know if anyone remembers back in the 90s. Maybe you still can. I don't know. I just haven't tried to buy anything like this in, you know, 15, 20, no, more like 20 years, 25 years. But you used to be able to get like calendars with posters of your favorite rock band, and they would do it that way. I don't think they were like standard poster sizes, but whatever the thing was, it had like a coil binding on the top. And then they would just have at the very bottom, it would be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like 1, 2, and and then it would say like April in really tiny letter. And the idea was that you would cut that off, and then you could tack that, tack the rest of it up on the wall. So I'm thinking of kind of treating it like that. So anyone who buys one of these calendars, I don't know if they're as heavy as this, but they're a little bit like cardstock, I think, or thicker paper, good quality paper. So then, even if it ends up not being sold out in advance of 2027, it's something I could still have on a table at a market or whatnot, and be like, well, it's a 12 pack of art prints, cartoon art prints, so etc. Um, so probably my point for all that was that probably this horizontal thing isn't gonna work. It would probably need to be more vertical, but you know, that just means we can have more height in that. Um, maybe we could. Well, for this one, I suppose it would be best to crop it so you don't see like the chicken coop and stuff like that. So so that the joke then isn't so much, oh, there's all this other crap that's impeded on her lawn, and now there's daffodils in it, which kind of is a valid thing to be annoyed by, I guess. But it'll make Agnes look crazier if it's just lawn that has random bunches of daffodils. Like she's flipping out, and you don't see that she's actually also pissed about all this stuff. So, anyways, that is, I guess, probably obviously April. Okay. And then May, you know what they say, April showers bring May flowers. So, time for the garden. Um, and yeah, thinking we'll have Noah in the garden. Now, I have actually, because I do on Facebook, I'm trying this year, I'm making a series of like banners, Facebook banners, one for each month. So I have them to flip through. I had like two before, two or three. But I'm doing higher resolution ones. But I have one where it's like Noah kind of almost doing like a pose where he's kind of sort of doing the sexy pose, except he's not looking at the camera. He's looking lovingly at his tulips or whatever, roses, but he's propped up on one arm like that. Um, Again, that's more of a horizontal thing. It's not going to work so much with a more vertical layout. So, what we're going to do then is the other thing I'm realizing is we don't. One of the recurring jokes with Noah is that he takes a lot of selfies. But I don't think I have any. In fact, I don't have any plans for that there. So why don't we do Noah taking a selfie in the garden? Maybe he's got a lilac tree there and some roses. If you really wanted to piss Agnes off, you'd have a all cottage gardened out. Um, Even have like some clematis. Clematis and cherry tree. I'm putting that down because I have a setup like that in my yard, so I can dig through my reference photos and find something to basically trace. Um, every time I have to draw Noah taking a selfie, I always have to do this with my phone to figure out the anatomy of how that would look, right? So he would have. I gotta turn it around. There and finger there and there and there and there. No, only have the humans in this world only have three fingers and a thumb. Because I thought that was kind of more cartoony, and then at times it kind of annoys me um, that I didn't do the proper number of fingers. But then when I'm working on Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat, who does have the proper number of fingers, I'm perpetually annoyed by having to squish in four fingers, especially on smaller drawings. So Noah wearing his garden gloves, and maybe he's doing like a peace sign or victory sign. victory sign, I guess, more than peace. Victory over Agnes's lawn. Of course, the fact that they've only got the 3 fingers means that when he's doing this, he's only got, that's 1 finger, so it looks a little weird. But kinda also it looks a little bit like he's still doing the bunny thing. Anyways, sleeves are rolled up. Now, May would be a little early for him to have anything, in the garden beds. Although I guess if he planted garlic last year, he'd have, that would be coming up because here you harvest garlic in June-ish. So sometime in May, yeah, he would definitely have garlic coming up. So we'll show some garlic in the or leeks or something like that he can have to be bragging about. Yeah, maybe we'll show one of his chickens has escaped and is like devouring his seedlings or something like that. And he's too busy selfie in yeah, selfieing, I guess, to notice that. I watched Garden Answer. I heard her make the comment that they had chickens and they've got like a big run or whatnot, but in the winter they were letting them out every day to run around because it didn't really matter if they were devouring things at that time of year, and then they can't during the gardening season. But anyways, so let's say the chicken has pulled up a radish, and I should probably label that is a radish. I'll give it a little butterfly. I have a recurring theme in my sketchbooks where there's birds and other things. As soon as Noah has washed his car, that the birds and even the butterflies are looking to immediately shit on it. So, let's see, lilac, peony. I guess we can try rose, peony. I'm gonna hate myself if I actually decide to. Well, there's some peonies that are like, um, they're single peonies, so they kind of have, you know, that kind of a look, right, with the stamens in the middle. The kind I have just look like you crumpled up a piece of tissue paper like that, and then they've got some petals on the outside, and they're massive. So those are annoying to draw if you're lazy, like some of us are. But anyways, so there's no that will be Noah taking his garden selfie. All right. Date night. Let's work backwards and fill in January and February. So date night. I did have somewhere way back in 2023. I think I had Noah and Ruth out for a Valentine's Day dinner. Um, but so I guess I could always go off of that. Uh, yeah, that's kind of a. We do also want to kind of have things be a little bit humorous as well as just the drawing. So maybe what they've done is They have set up the table in the dining room or the living room. Where's your Anyways, they're at their home table, is my point, because they could not get a babysitter, or Noah didn't want to pay for restaurant, whatever. There we've got the raised eyebrows, but it's not anxiety. In this case, it's the hey baby. Obviously, his head is a little too big here, but and he is dressed up a little. For the purposes of these, I'm not going to bother drawing Noah's hair in all its messy glory. Maybe what we're going to do is Ruth is distracted because she has heard the sound of the kid. The daughter is Ursula coming down from up there. Be mommy on board. It might be some. Not sure what she's going to yell down, but Ursula is going to be yelling down something from up there. Well, kind of. I still have not actually drawn out the full layout of the Thorson household. I mean, guest house would normally be pretty small, although I guess if the mansion is big enough for the main house, sometimes the guest house is not tiny. But I'd have to figure out something to do with the layout here. I know what she's gonna say. Do I smell chocolate cake? To play with this one more, but just gonna make a note. Figure out floor plan. And the reason why the floor plan is you kind of want to have like where's the wall, and because I'm kind of envisioning where wherever they are they can see the couch, but maybe it's like an archway type of thing. You know what I mean? Have to go look through some of the old comics and sort of figure out what I've already established in the lore. Anyways, I'm gonna put a question mark on my little thing here. Um, so now, January, building snowmen, which is kind of ridiculous because the Thorsons live in Victoria, BC, and I'm not saying it doesn't snow down there. I live about an hour north of Victoria. I have absolutely been down there running errands in January and seen flakes flying by, but it's extraordinarily rare for them to get enough snow down there that they could build a snowman. I mean, it happens. After all, we've got, I think the sun does like a 25-year cycle with solar flares and whatnot, and the period when it's at the solar minimum and there's not many solar flares, it gets colder on our little rock ball, including even in Victoria. So it does happen. But and probably where they would be at in Oak Bay, probably they get a little bit, well, it's hard to say. It's they got a little more elevation, but they're also closer to the water. So, anyways, whatever. We're going to ignore reality for the purposes of this book. So, um, and I think Calvin and Hobbes have kind of cornered the market back in the day on like little kids doing like really scary monster type of snowmen. So we don't, I'm not gonna really worry about that. But I'm just gonna give this one a 2-2. Um, I don't know what she's gonna do. Horns and bun, and I'll make a note for that. Kind of debating having Ruth and Noah inside looking out. We'll see. I know. Of Ruth saying, "Who's that supposed to be?" All right, so that could work. Again, it's a little too horizontal, so it'll probably be more like Noah reading the paper down here, Ruth standing behind him, looking out like that. Curtain, Ursula, snowman, speech bubble, thinking bubble. So, but there, I do like the idea where at the end it's kind of it's clear that she's been making snow monsters of the various people who annoy her in her life. Uh, and I could even make this longer, like basket devil horns in basketball, her gym teacher, you know, etc. Um, okay. Now, let's jump ahead to the brainstorming for June. And Ursula, not a big fan of the whole school thing. Um, So I was envisioning a thing where, well, I'll just start drawing it. Guess nowadays they don't really do the old school bell like that, right? But um, so maybe it would be better to have like the intercom sort of going. Ring. Show our little friend Lily. Her teacher, Miss Fartimar. Also been kind of couldn't wait to see the end of Ursula. Of course, the comic does kind of operate on sitcom rules, so you know they're in a time loop. Everything resets every July. Miss Fartimar is not rid of her most annoying student yet. Uh, Obviously, this is not to scale, but this other kid just had already gone and grabbed her knapsack. It's like leaning out of the table. Again, needs to be more vertical. just sort of forget which side of the Braveheart face was blue. I'm probably doing this backwards, but one side blue and the other, you know, and the other white. So now this is another one that it's a little bit like March because for July, of course, in Canada we have Canada Day on July 1st, and then obviously there's the American holiday, Independence Day on the 4th, and we have a lot of media back and forth, right? So it's not like July 4th is unheard of here. Um, although you do get frowned upon for celebrating it. Although, anyways, the stock market's closed, there's other blah blah blah. But Noah, of course, loves all holidays. He'll even celebrate, fake ones like I this week I did a comic yesterday, National Doctor's Day, and Noah's dressed up as a doctor. And obviously, he's not a doctor; he's a stay-at-home dad, and then he sings in like cover bands as well. So, but he loves any holiday, so he's going to be celebrating both. And he loves costumes, but what does he do when there's only one picture? Again, he's going to have to kind of do a combo. I did have a bit of an idea of what he might do earlier. This one's definitely going to be full body. So it kind of harkens back a little bit to a couple of Groundhog Days ago. I had a comic where he's wrapped himself in a faux fur rug and he's kind of making this little like got his hands up by his chest like he's a groundhog kind of outfit. And he's telling the wife Ruth, because Ruth sews the day before, he's asking her if she will turn this fake rug into a groundhog costume for him. He just needs it the next morning. So perhaps this is going to be his Groundhog Day costume that has been retrofitted with a big fake tail. Uh, Probably be a pain in the butt to do little stars on there, so we probably won't. Um, what I'm going to do is put Ruth down here in the bottom corner. Not amused. Have to give him a beaver tail as well. I'll actually say, not wearing that to Costco. So, it's a rough for July. Whole bunch of these where I only had the vaguest of notions this afternoon, and now we're getting things done. August. Now, August is going to be August and September are gonna well, actually the next few are all gonna prominently feature Ursula. Um, so there's kind of a recurring joke in the webcomic about Ursula is a big lover of super soakers and playing sniper. So, and Noah is a big fan of the pool. So we got to have at least one drawing of Noah in the pool. And Ursula acting as a sniper with her super soakers. So he's got one of those inner tube floaties that also has like the headrest so we can kind of doze off in it. Which, yeah, I mean, you really shouldn't be dozing off in a pool, but anyways. Maybe we'll give him a stripe of zinc white down his nose or something like that. Speedo kind of does enough. See, they've got a little diving board thingamajig here, and Ursula is using it as cover. It'd actually probably work better if she was over here. Maybe there's a bush or something. Except this, the other thing I have the idea on is her wearing a camo makeup on her face, but if she's on concrete. So let's let's say that there's a patio set here, because I think there is. The other thing that I could do is have Ursula in the pool. And she's wearing, um, she's got a little snorkel thing, but that has like but she's wearing like a shark fin hat on her or something like that. But I think the Super Soaker is a better. She could have her Nerf blaster under uh, the water with her, though, planning to ambush him. But no. Now, Ursula normally wears either a dark green or an orange top. In the winter, she has a sort of a raspberry, purplishy, pinky sweater that she wears. Point is, she doesn't really wear black, but for September, I'm thinking, those the femme fatale black hats with the veil, net veil on them. Except her backpack is bright pink. Actually, when we put it that the only uh, all black thing Ursula has is like a dress from when they drag her to funeral services. And Ruth here is a second grade teacher, so she does not view the first day of school with the same amount of scorn as her daughter does. Anyways, Adam is Noah's son from his first marriage, and he is this huge hulking dude with a mohawk who's into more powerlifting than bodybuilding. But anyways, Adam is also a goth DJ. And Ursula has been known to borrow borrow his records and then color on the covers, much to Adam's annoyance. That would probably be a fairly obscure reference, but if anybody is familiar with Boyd Rice, let me see if I can pull up the cover. New window, music, martinis, and misanthropy. I don't know that much shows up, but I was gonna say I thought there was a gun in the back of the thing, and there is, but it's a kind of there's a couple of them. Never mind. It's one of those things where you kind of take a close look and it just looks like okay, you see the martinis, but the more you look, the more you see bullets and stuff like that. You use a hot pink. It would have to be like a paint pen to show up on a cover like that, but I don't know what copy of the vinyl of that would go for nowadays. Let's ask Discogs. For sale, shop 19 listings. Oh, actually, not that well. I guess with shipping, 25 pounds plus, so about $40 with shipping and taxes. Somebody thinks they're going to get, mind you, this is near mint. Somebody thinks that they're going to get 129 quid for it. Mind you, somebody else has a mint copy that they only want $40 for. So, anyways, I guess it depends how badly Adam got screwed on eBay as to how angry he would be at Ursula. But anyways, so we'll have Ursula in a black. Yeah. October. Trick or treating. Ursula loves candy, but she also hates exercise. So, um, had an idea earlier about this that if she says she wants to go as like a charioteer, then in theory, she just has to stand and then she would make Noah. Noah would have to be the one going up to the doors. Phone keeps going off with notifications. I need to update my schedule to reflect the fact that I am streaming at this point. So please, phone, quit squawking. I'm envisioning her wearing kind of like a toga over top of her t-shirt. Well, except it'd be cold, so she'd be wearing a hoodie. So it'd be like a hoodie and then a Roman style toga over top. I have like a red line over it. After all, parents always kind of make kids wear their jackets over their costume. Well, not always, but I remember that was always a pain in the butt when I was a kid, that the costumes weren't big enough to go over the coat, so the coat had to go over the costume, and then nobody could tell what the hell you were supposed to be. Actually, what would be fun is if Noah was wearing like a cow costume. right. Now, November. Now, I'm not sure about this one because I have a vote for Ursula down here, but Ursula doesn't seem really, she's not really the type who would want to be class president, you know? That's a lot of extra homework as far as she's concerned. Um, and obviously, towards the end of November, you start with Christmas prep and whatnot, but I don't want to have like a double, like Ursula going to see Santa and then Noah chasing Ruth with mistletoe is definitely what I want for December. Uh, um, I mean, obviously, I can figure it out later in the week. Um, we do have, obviously, not everyone's going to buy both the Noah and the Ricky, but there is one in September for the Ricky one, which is Fall Fair Election Fraud, which harkens back to one of the podcasts I did with Ricky, where his mom always is trying to win the knitting blue ribbons. And if she doesn't win the knitting blue ribbons, well, even if she does, um, she's hassling Ricky to like stuff the People's Choice ballot box. So there's like a whole story about him, um, you know, with all these ballots and getting random little kids to take those and like stuff a fistful in on the grounds that Santa Claus would give them extra cheese if they did, blah blah blah. Um, so because I've got that election there, um, I don't know if I'm gonna do an election with Ursula, but I don't know. It's kind of the point where my brain is going, I have no idea. So we're just going to we'll just put a question mark there and we'll kind of skip over it. I mean, we're an hour and 40 minutes in. So Manoa chasing Ruth with mistletoe. I actually have that from Vlogmas 2024. So I'll redraw it, of course. So, we haven't really drawn much in the way of Ricky and Myles stuff, and a lot of that's kind of been done. I'm kind of thinking we'll probably wrap it up a little early, but let's have a look at what we've drawn so far. And then what next week will be is I will do, there's one I could have done for a March as well. This is a bonus one I did for the web comic. Nowadays, like just nowadays, like in the last week or so, decided to move to doing it all marker sketches rather than digitally. Um, but this was before then. So there has been kind of a thing about Ursula trying to catch leprechauns. In fact, didn't I do this in, I think I did this in a Tuesday live stream a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Anyways, whatever. That would be another option for March, actually. But anyways, so we started with brainstorming the March and determined that it's going to be Noah wearing some of his leprechaun costuming over top of his Easter bunny costuming because both holidays happen in November or in March next year. And it might also be, I may change some of this stuff. I'll think about it because there is the theming with Noah where he's really into holidays. I could sort of see where I may, I mean, whatever, I would do new drawings, but where I might in the future do a calendar where it's nothing but Noah's costumes for various holidays. And some of them might be like weird ones. Like I know I had done some comics where it's like Noah um Noah celebrating, quote, "wear something gaudy day," and he's wearing this bizarre outfit to go to the grocery store, um, and things like that. So that would be in the future, but I kinda like this one for now. Um, and then Agnes yelling at Frank over her lawn. But then another decision would be, do I wanna keep maybe in this first year, I just keep it to the nuclear family, so it would be Noah, possibly his elder sons, um, Ruth, Ursula, and the baby, which we haven't actually seen the baby, so far today. Um, anyways, we did some brainstorming. I will then make final determinations this weekend on what's gonna go in, but then definitely I'm liking the Noah doing his selfie in the yard. And that's the thing, if I was doing a calendar every year, which I hope to, then I can have some that have different, different theming, and one year might be nothing but Noah's selfies, another year might be, nothing but Noah's crazy costumes, etc. Um, February date night, I'm not so sure of. I like the idea of they're trying to have a romantic Valentine's date night, and Ursula's already in bed, and then she doesn't wanna stay in bed and keeps interrupting. That's kind of fun. Whether it'll be this version, I don't know. Um, I am happy with this one where Noah's just kind of bored and giving an explanation of Ursula's snow monsters. Well, Ruth, it's kind of a running gag that Ruth's a little bit out of touch with what's going on with Ursula. Um, and then our end of the school year freedom. Noah's combo costume. Ursula the sniper. Ursula's funeral thing. I wouldn't put that one actually into the comic or into the calendar because I think so few people would get the joke or even know what the reference is, whether they thought it was a joke or funny or not, but it's one thing, it's something that makes me laugh. Uh, and then Halloween. So we got a bunch of brainstorming done. Like I said at the beginning, as I started thinking about it, I realized that a lot of the Ricky and Myles stuff I've kind of already plotted, or I'm going to be using versions of comics I've already drawn and just redrawing and improving them. So, anyways, that's our very rough sketches for brainstorming. And yeah, this is the week that I'm starting to brainstorm, or not brainstorm. We do have another brainstorming stream this week on Thursday, but starting to live stream every week. So I will be back tomorrow at 6:30 Pacific. We will be inking tomorrow, and it's actually a project that I had forgotten about. Not the overall project, but the specific chunk, which is a webcomic I did actually starting 20 years ago in 2006. I started my first webcomic, Zomo the Destroyer. I used to post it on MySpace back in the day. And I kind of did it. It started petering out in 2008. Um, but I was looking through the archives because I did decide that I will rescan them all and put together a self-published book of those comics. But when I was looking through the archives, I found this like 14. Is it 14? I think it's 10 or 12, maybe 14 pages. The 14 is 2014. In 2014, I was going to relaunch the comic, and I had drawn this sort of the main character Zelmo narrating and getting everyone up to date on what had been happening in the few years since the comic had last happened. And then I decided to do a podcast version of it instead. So I never inked it. But I'm thinking that would be kind of a nice finale to the comics in that self-published book. So we are going to ink it starting tomorrow night. I expect that'll take probably 4 shows, like a month's worth of Wednesdays to get through that. And then we'll start working on some other stuff in that. But anyway, so we're inking tomorrow with the dip pens and all that stuff. Thursday, we are doing another one of these kind of brainstorming streams, and it's going to be Noah well, today these have all been Noah, but the project, I'm going to start working on a coloring book. I'm going to do a few adult coloring books is my plan. And the first one on the dock is going, and it's like the A to Z of Noah's jobs, where Ursula has some homework thing where she's supposed to ask her parents about, jobs that they've had. And Noah is telling her of all these random jobs he's had in his life. And she's bored until he gets to, because it kind of goes A to Z. So until he gets to Q and talks about, oh, and I was a quality taste tester in a chocolate in a candy factory. But anyways, and then that's all. She kind of latches onto that, and he won't talk about it anymore. But she's by the end of this, she has determined what she wants to do with her life. um, um, anyways, so we will be doing what I'm going to do for that coloring book. I'll just flip over. Is each spread, and I'll talk more about this on. Well, actually, probably the thumbnailing will probably happen right in this book. Each spread will have like a little bit of a blurb here, and then the coloring page here, right? Because I'll be self-publishing, so it'll be print on demand with Amazon. I don't know what their paper is like in terms of like marker bleed through or whatnot, but I'm going to assume that it's best to have nothing on the back of the art page. So if somebody wants to color with markers, they're not worrying that, oh, it's going to ruin the next page. So, but instead of leaving this like totally blank and just having images, I'm going to write like a little short story that goes with it. So that you have a little blurb and then you have the illustration. You have, anyway, so I have a list of what Noah's jobs will be, and we'll talk about more about that on Thursday's stream. But we will start thumbnailing in a similar manner, this kind of like pose and rough layout thumbnailing. And then the week after, we will start drawing and inking. So, anyways, and then Friday this week, as usual, I will be inking a couple pages, maybe even 3 pages, depending how fast I go, from Ricky B Goes to Sea, my graphic novel. So, anyways, this project we will continue with on next Tuesday. And yeah, leave it on the May garden selfie cartoon. So hope you've enjoyed this week's brainstorming, and I hope I kind of explained adequately what my thought process is in doing these kind of thumbnails. And it's kind of interesting maybe to see the creative process before we get to like the more finished art, because I'm just gonna grab what I inked yesterday in my Monday stream is working on Miles Marov's Pursuit of Happiness. But like all of these started in a sketchbook as a drawing that looked like this, or even more stick figure that might have looked more like this, like really stick figurey. And then I move on to the final paper, and I go from that to sketching with the non-photo blue pencil, and then we go to inking. So with this one, because this is going to be a full color thing, as I said, that's what at the very beginning, that's why I did these tests, which obviously they're not really drawings, but a few different kinds of pencil crayon colored in, and then testing with both the dip pen and a pigment pen. How does the line work look? Does it, in all cases it looks fine. And then markers as well. So I'll end up probably using all of the above for different effects because I think the markers, especially alcohol markers, they tend to give a more solid block of color. That gives a more artsy, energetic for probably sounds pompous, but you know what I mean, like a more quick type of look. Um, the pigment pens are more exact in the line, and the dip pen is a little bit more. You don't know what you're going to get. The line may break up. The line may go splat. So I think combining all four of those elements into these drawings for both this and then the Ricky calendar will be really beneficial. And the more I think of it, I think I am going to go through and do the Noah calendar straight through so that I know at least I have one calendar done. And so, yeah, that means I guess I better figure out at least two of these. We may not go in order. Like we may do the Noah selfie and the January snowman in the same thing, in the same show. And but then yeah, for the next 7 to 8 weeks we'll be working on Noah, and then by then I will have made my decisions for Ricky, and then we'll do that, and hopefully they will all be done sometime in July, and then on to the live streams I'll move on to a different project. I've got like 2 or 3 lined up. Um, and then off camera, I'll do things like my Photoshop work and um, sorting it into the template and finally uploading it. So that's a long-winded explanation, and some of it had nothing to do with this project because obviously I was talking about the coloring book too. But that's the plan going forward. So again, hope you've enjoyed this little peek at the thumbnailing for this calendar project, and we will see you, well, tomorrow. We'll see you when we see you, but I will be streaming again tomorrow night, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So we'll see you real soon. Bye for now.